ADHD is like getting rejected, right? It's a circumstance in life. It's your reaction toward that circumstance define who you are.
ADHD Rewired, episode number 60. This is the show designed to help those of us who have really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. My name is Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, coach, and consultant. We know that starting can be the hardest part, so let's get started. But first, let me thank our sponsors. Support for this podcast comes from Audible. For a free audiobook download, go to erictivers.com/audible for a link for that free download and for some hand-picked recommendations. Go to erictivers.com/audible for your free audiobook download. Do you need an easy way to connect with people virtually, but don't want to be hassled by downloads that don't work, connections that are complicated? Go to erictivers.com/Zoom and check out truly what I think is a revolutionarily easy to use video conferencing platform. That's erictivers.com/Zoom. You've heard me tell you so many times at the start of each episode that starting is the hardest part. Well, I'm writing an ebook and I'm just getting started, but I really want your help with it first. So go to erictivers.com/ebook to fill out a really fast survey, and I'm going to reward you by entering you into a raffle to win the ADHD Rewired Mystery Box of Awesomeness. It's such a mystery, I don't even know what's going to be in it yet. But I'm going to put in some cool things. I do have some ideas. Go to erictivers.com/ebook. Thanks. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD Rewired. I am here in the virtual ADHD Rewired studio in cold Illinois with my guest, Ja Jung. Did I say that correctly?
You got it.
All right, nailed it. We had some practice on that one.
Yeah, we did.
And, this is going to be a really awesome episode because I think that what Ja is going to talk with us about is how to kind of put on that Teflon suit for the fear of rejection and failure. It's something that I experience, that fear of failure. How do we deal with rejection? And Ja is an entrepreneur. He came from to the U.S. from China. He'll correct me because I'm sure I'll get some of this wrong. When he was 16, he had the American dream. He heard of this guy named Bill Gates, and that's who he wanted to be. And so now he is a dad, he's an entrepreneur, a husband, and he just wrote a book which is about to come out called, I have to look at my notes because I forgot, 100 Days of Rejection. Is that it?
It's called Rejection Proof.
Rejection Proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the details. So, Ja, welcome. Tell us a little bit about who you are, then we'll kind of get into your story.
Yeah, I am an entrepreneur, as you mentioned. So there's a long backstory of how I got here from a kid who grew up in China. But I am here now. What I want to do is I want to help people to overcome the fear of rejection. I had it. I still have a little bit, but is compared to what I had before, like almost feel like I'm Superman because of these things I did, my experiences and all these exercises I did. But now I feel like, almost not too many things can faze me anymore. I see rejection in a completely different way, and I want other people to see it the same way.
So, Joe, why? Like, well, why was this something you're like, I gotta figure out this whole rejection proofing thing because, what was your reason? Yeah,
so let's go back to my story. I wanted to be an entrepreneur growing up. When I was 14, Bill Gates back in mid 90s, you figure out how old I am now. So he came to Beijing to speak, and I was listening to him, and I was just mesmerized by this guy. I thought he knew the truth, he knew the future. I wanted to be like him, be this entrepreneur, change the world. So I came to America when I was 16, went to high school for a year, went to college. then develop a corporate career. But the thing is, I feel in my process, I lost that drive to be entrepreneur. I just lost that dream. Was because I had this family pressure for me to be on my own, to be financially independent, and also my peers was having good jobs in the corporate. I thought maybe this is what I should do. So I stayed the safe route, being in the corporate and climbing the ladder, and then eventually, when I was 30 years old, my first son was born. Usually this is a time where people give up their dreams. It's like, right, I got to be a dad now, and I can't do this anymore. But to me, I felt I was in danger of doing that. So my son became my catalyst for me to quit my job and to start my own company.
Now, what was the timing on that?
It was 4 days before he was born. There was a scheduled C-section. 4 days before that, I quit.
So you have this new life coming into your world, and you decide, I guess I'll quit my job now.
Yeah, and it wasn't a light decision. It wasn't me sitting there saying, I got to do this. It's actually a conversation between me and my wife, and we had this conversation for a while, and eventually she thought this is the best way for me to go, because she thought I could have. She knew this is not what I was meant to be.
What were you doing before?
I was working in the Fortune 500 company, being I was a marketing manager. I was making pretty good money, by the way. So, but just doing that, I felt there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people become really successful. A lot of people are thinking this is what their life is meant to be. But to me, I just never thought, because I never give myself that chance.
So did you forget that you wanted to be this entrepreneur, or then
No, I never forget about it. That's why it was so painful. It was just that inertia, that momentum of having this sure thing, the sure income, the six-figure income that was coming in, and to have a family, to show that my family that I was doing good. And I was, in college I struggled, and some of my family knew it. I'm sure this is not a pretty common theme for the listeners. In college I really struggled, and this is almost, to me, I want to prove to them that I can stand on my own. I can be successful in a big company. But by proving myself to other people, by trying to live up to someone else's expectation, I lost my own. And that's why when I was 30, despite my family's objection or my friends thinking I was crazy, it's me and my wife.
You do have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur. There's certainly, it's somewhere between that drive for that. It's a roller coaster ride. It is a gamble, and the odds are stacked against us as entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, and to think that we often see the glamour side of entrepreneurship, like Bill Gates, the Mark Zuckerberg, cover of the Time magazine, but we don't know that really just 95% of people fail in the first 5 years.
Yeah,
and we don't mention those people, and then we also mention just a few who made it. But being an entrepreneur is tough, and as you're mentioning, odds are stacked against you.
So you had this desire to be an entrepreneur from the time you said 14 or 16?
Yeah, when I was 14.
Okay, and when you came to the U.S., was it with your parents and?
No, I came here by myself.
Oh.
I went to a host family. This is under a culture exchange program. So I was an exchange student, basically.
Okay.
I didn't know any English. Japanese was my second language. So I could say hi. I could say hello. I could say the word NASDAQ, because at the time it was the .com boom.
Wow. So all right, and what point did you get diagnosed with ADHD?
In college.
Okay, so here you are, this undiagnosed kid with ADHD in the States. So now everything is new and shiny. So your brain's probably everything's awesome, I'm guessing.
Yeah. This is what I found is interesting. I had this in China. I knew I had this. It's not for lack of desire. I wanted to do well, and especially in China, being good students is everything.
Yeah.
Right here, if you're nerdy or you're not cool, right? In China, if you don't do well at school, you're toast, And so I wanted to do well, but I felt there's something off. Is that because I wasn't smart? No, I thought I was really smart. A lot of people told me I was brilliant, but at school sometimes it's tough for me to pay attention in class. And then when we're doing the final exam, and I was always like ranked in the latter half of the class. And again, I tried hard, so I didn't know what was happening. So, and then I moved to the States, and things changed for a short period of time.
Okay,
this is a whole new environment, this whole big motivation thing actually had me focus for a bit. I took
like
this
how
new
long?
Oh, I would say a few months, maybe a year, maybe a year. So this is where I took the challenge of learning new language. Everything's new.
How did you learn it? How did you learn English?
Just by speaking, by talking to people, and there was a necessity because again, my family told me the number one. They give me like 3 priorities to do in the U.S. before you go to college: English, English, and English. So
really,
yeah, it was.
Your mom and dad said this.
My mom and dad, and also my uncle, especially my.
Okay.
And it wasn't my uncle. He lives in the U.S.
Okay.
He's like an older immigrant, and so he's showing me the way. But he has very high expectations of me, and that in a way really impacted my life because I felt I constantly tried to live up to his expectation. And so I learned English and by talking and really just the first time in my life I felt good about myself. Even I actually learned the language. I was able to communicate, and I was pretty good at it. So that gave me a sense, almost a false hope of I'm super genius. I can do any. Back in China, that's the old world. Now the new world, I can do anything I want. And then when I went to college, I got hit by reality.
All right. So what happened in college?
It's well, I had a tough time doing graduating. I really did, and I picked one of the worst major for ADHD person. It's computer science. Yeah, it was not me.
Okay.
It doesn't fit my personality. It doesn't fit my condition, and just.
And I'm guessing too, it didn't fit your interests because I mean that's that's one of those paradoxical things about ADHD. It's like I'm horrible at math. I mean it's embarrassing how bad I am at math, but in like things like spreadsheets and stuff, and I don't know if you heard my interview with Asdul Soleil, who's like a spreadsheet genius with Excel, and I mean. So it's like, so here I am thinking, I do mind maps, so the way I connect information, and he's doing this crazy stuff with Excel, but it's interesting, and his brain works that way. So I think to say that they know something is or isn't good for ADHD, so much of that has to do with, are you interested in it?
Yeah, and it is. The thing is, I was interested in more of the results of being a programmer, like the idea of I'm Bill Gates, I can program amazing stuff.
Sure.
And the reality is I couldn't. I really couldn't. I couldn't focus for a long period of time. I'll describe a typical day for you.
Yeah, please.
It was, I would sometimes go to class and sometimes don't, but wanting to go to class and kicking myself. I was late, and then 10 minutes late, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to miss the class. Probably wouldn't understand anyway, and then couldn't focus anyway, so I'll just skip it. So after dinner, it's like 7:00, I went to school, find an empty classroom, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend tonight studying, catching
I'm really gonna do it.
Yeah, it was everything I missed. All right. So I sat in the classroom and just doing things, and internet popped up, and I was surfing and just doing stuff, but anything but studying. And constantly kicking myself, I got to do this. All right, let me just finish reading this article, then I'm going to study. And then pretty soon 7:00 becomes 11:00. And pretty soon that's 1:00. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to pull all-nighter. I'm gonna just pull an all-nighter and make sure I just do it. Then pretty soon 1 o'clock becomes 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm exhausted from just everything but studying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Sometimes I go home. Sometimes like I'm gonna take a short sleep on the bench of my on my the hallway of my class building. Then next day I'll study hard. And then I and I crash and I wake up 11 o'clock. And the next day is over. So I'm just bringing all the painful memory back to my life right now.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think that probably most of the people who are listening right now are nodding their head, and you just described my whole thought process of that, those good intentions, and it's like everything seems to get in the way. I mean, you also just described my Monday. I mean, in all seriousness, I had clients that I didn't have clients in the evening, and I thought, all right, I'm going to get home early and get to spend some time with my son and put him to bed and all that. I don't know what I did for the last 4 hours in my office, but I didn't get home to put him to bed. So it's, and I got a handle on a lot of my ADHD, but I still have those days, and I'm kind of having one of those weeks. And the shame that's associated with that.
You lose so much confidence when you do that. You're like, if you can't get a hang of your own life, what hell are you doing? How are you going to become this whatever? Let alone being an entrepreneur, changing the world. How are you going to find a job?
Yeah.
Who's going to hire you? How are you going to graduate?
Yeah.
So to me, it's a miracle that I graduated. I really say the biggest miracle in my life is not the birth of my kids. It's not that my wife would want me. Really, it's not the crazy journey I'm going on right now with this whole writing a book. It's none of that. I graduated from college.
Yeah. It's sort of how I felt about grad school. That was the hardest thing I ever did. Was not just graduate. I got a 4.0 in grad school.
Oh my gosh.
That's sort of how I feel. It's like, was there a mistake? But that was it for me. That was where I really started to learn how to manage my ADHD, because I had to. I got in a bad car accident on my way to grad school, and I was sleeping 2 hours a night. It was awful. It was awful. And so I learned that I can't just try hard like that. I was trying as hard as I can, and I still wasn't getting everything done. So it was really beginning to learn a lot more of those planning strategies and other, other tools and things that have evolved to do what I'm doing now.
So I wish I know that from my graduate school. My graduate school is a repeat of undergrad, but it was something that vastly interested me. This is where the kind of conundrum you're talking about. This, this whole thing, because I loved my graduate school experience, but the thing is, school was still very hard for me. Yeah.
What was the hardest part of it for you?
Doing class homework.
Yeah,
seriously, it was, and it was the same time, this whole repeating experience where I just tried really hard. I feel like I'm spending 10 hours to do someone else's 1 hour of work, but sometimes I spend those hours.
Yeah. Was reading hard for you?
Yeah. To stay engaged with reading was tough. But I love audiobooks.
Yeah.
I feel like someone's telling me a story. That's why I read a lot, but I can't. When I say I read a lot, is I listen a lot. I listen to like 2 audiobooks per month, and I try to keep the pace with it. I listen to tons of podcasts and try to learn new things every day. But I can't read.
Do me a favor, because you just threw me the softest softball of a setup for me to pitch Audible. As you know, the Audible's a sponsor for this podcast, and if you haven't done so already, you can get a free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/ADHD rewired. But I want to know, to give us some suggestions, some good listens, some good reads. Do you call them listens or reads when you're doing an audiobook?
Books.
Books. Big.
Yeah.
So what are some good ones that you've read, or books?
Oh, there's one is there's a book called How Children Succeed.
How Children Succeed?
Guy name is Paul Tough, and it's a great name for someone who write a book like that. It basically teaches you that adversities in life could be a blessing if it's handled well.
Yeah.
If it's not handled well, it's a huge curse. But if it's handled well, it can become an advantage. It really is something I talk about now with people in terms of rejection. I feel like rejection is something that you if you handle it well, you can turn them into opportunities or advantages. If you don't, you just you just can't handle it and just let it drop, it might fall on your feet and really hurt you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no, I mean, I've created my career out of my biggest challenge. It's
same with me. I took rejection. Rejection was my biggest challenge. And this is where I want to go into this a little bit. Why rejection is my biggest opportunity or biggest mission in life right now is because, just after all these years, I feel I lost my entrepreneurial dream. And that desire is always there, but I just constantly trying to prove myself, constantly trying to live up to the expectation of society and other people. Eventually, I lost that entrepreneurial dream. So when I was 30, I quit my job. I just had to say, screw this. I got to do this.
All right. So let me cut in real quickly. Okay. We're going to get into rejection proof and more of that, what you're just sharing with us. I want to stick with the promo stuff for just a moment to help pay the bills, to keep this podcast going, so I can pay my virtual assistant to keep doing my show notes, because I hate doing them myself.
Oh man!
But I got to do that by thanking our sponsor. So we'll be right back. Get a Zoom room. Go to erictivers.com/Zoom. I use Zoom video conferencing for the ADHD Rewired Coaching and Accountability Group. Zoom makes video conferencing fun and easy. Share your screen, collaborate with a whiteboard, record the audio and video. It's ADHD friendly. Go free or go pro, but go to erictivers.com/Zoom so they know that I sent you. That's erictivers.com/Zoom. I've been listening to a lot of books on Audible lately, and this week I finished what is hands down by far the best listen that I've ever had from Audible. And that is the title, The Power of Vulnerability, Teaching of Authenticity, Connection, and Courage. This was an all-day presentation given by Brene Brown. Brene has presented on shame and vulnerability. She has a great TED Talks on it. I cannot recommend this book more. This is by far if I could give it 10 stars, I would. I would highly encourage all of you, if you've not done so already, take advantage of the free audiobook download by going to erictivers.com/Audible. And if you are currently a member of Audible, download this book and listen to it. It's truly amazing. All right, and we are back, and we are going to get some real good education right here on how to rejection proof ourselves. So kind of bring us back to that story that you were just sharing with us. You're 30 years old, son is born.
I don't want my son to be an excuse for me to give up my dream. I don't want to pull him over when he's like 5 or 10, telling him, look at me, I'm a good father. Because of you, I gave up my dream. I want I want to provide for you. That's not what I want to tell him. I want to tell him when he's 5, when he's 10, when he's 18, I want to say to him, because you were born, I went after my dream. So I want you to do that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm just taking that in for a moment, because that's as a entrepreneur and dad, that's a challenge for me too, to balance that I'm trying to provide and also do something that's of high interest to me. So yeah, I'm just taking that in. So keep talking. I'll just keep listening.
So. So I want him to be my inspiration and catalyst rather than my excuse. So so I quit my job and I started this app company. I had this cool idea I formed a team building this thing. I felt like I was living the best time of my life, because it was very intense, but also nerve wracking. But also fun. My wife gave me
What kind of app were you?
It was a promise app, meaning I have a problem. I have a problem keeping promise to people. I'll tell you that. But so to force myself to do that, we built an app where we can, if you tell someone something, a promise or something, that you can keep score. If you fulfill the promise, the other person will give you a thumb up.
Interesting.
So yeah, I thought it's interesting too, and I wanted to do it. But the thing is, my wife gave me 6 months because it will be it was a great decision.
6 months from the time your son was born.
Yeah, to quit my job, to really reevaluating, because if after 6 months we're bringing no income, there's no traction, there's the money is running out, then it's time to maybe go back to work. So
that's a fast track too for entrepreneurship.
It is, but the thing is, it was liberating. It wasn't enslaving or anything. I felt liberated because I knew in this 6 months there are certain milestones we'll have to meet, and that gave me not urgency but also goals and sense of purpose. It's tough to say I'll be an entrepreneur from today. Let's go, right? But you can say I have 6 months to do this. Let's see where I can take it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try my hardest. So 4 months into the venture, I was presented with the investment opportunity, but I was rejected, and I really wanted it. Like, there are a lot of things I want in life, but somehow that investment.
Like, what kind of investment opportunity?
It was a early stage, like angel, but because I feel I was running out of money, and I need a cash infusion. Okay. And the thing is, I felt I was close. That's the problem. When you want something really bad, you felt you got a chance. When you got rejected, it just felt very bad, and it hurt me so much that
it's like you get punched in the gut kind of feeling.
Yeah, slap in the face and kick in the groin, just all into one. Sorry about the image, but it just felt.
Let's not get carried away here. Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's like someone was the super karate move, but afterward, I just felt, maybe this is time to quit. The reason is I don't want that feeling again. I don't want to work this hard to get up to that next person and get rejected again. Maybe I'm thinking this is not for me. But my wife was the one who put me up and saying, hey, you got 6 months. I give you 6 months. You got 4.5 months. You got some time left. Keep doing. Don't quit like this. Mm-hmm. But then that's where I realized, wow. Just all these years trying to prove myself with all these dreams, and also with this ADHD thing, I'm so afraid to fail again. I'm so afraid to be seen as someone who's not competent. I was so afraid that my in-law would say, "See, I told you." I was so afraid to go to my friends saying, wasn't for me, and trying to still sound good, but justify my failure. I was so afraid of that, and so and it almost felt like it was almost a feeling like if I give the sense of I quit earlier, maybe I'm more sensible, maybe people would accept me more. That's when my wife said, you got to keep going. And I said, okay, how can I overcome this fear of rejection? All this fear I developed for a long time. How do I do it? And that's when I went on this journey called 100 Days of Rejection.
Was it this like was it intense anxiety, this fear, or was it just like how intense was it for you?
It's always there, but it was magnified. Okay. Right after my investment rejection.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad. My wife told me that almost like I was in the person in the sixth sense. I see dead people, right? I was like, I have that face. Anyway, so I said I got to keep going, and how do I overcome this fear? So I went online. I found this thing called Rejection Therapy, and basically it asks you to go out and look for rejection. And I thought, you know what, this is so fun. I want to look for rejection. I'm not going to run away from rejection anymore. I've been running away from rejection my whole life. I got to stop. So I started my own blog called 100 Days of Rejection. You can Google it or go to fearbuster.com. you can see my blog. And basically, I went out,
and we'll be sure to have a link to all that in the
sure.
show notes, right in the podcast app. So if you're like, oh, I want to see that, just on most podcast players, you just tap the album art for ADHD Rewired. The abridged show notes will pop up there, and the hyperlink for that will take you there.
Yeah, so basically I went out to look for one rejection per day, and I would film it. I would have this iPhone hanging on my neck, and just film myself getting rejected, just toughen myself up, desensitize myself from the pain.
Where'd you get this idea?
Well, this thing, I got this idea with Rejection Therapy. This guy came up looking for rejection, but I put my own spin where like, I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to film myself getting rejected. And so for example, the first day I went to a stranger and I asked to borrow $100. And I was told no. And that felt like life and death. The second day I went to a burger joint and I ordered something. I ordered a burger. And then after I finished it, I was still hungry, so I asked for a burger refill rather than a drink refill. And so I got to know.
Did I say like, excuse me, what?
Yeah, exactly. He was like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, it's a burger refill. He's like, what's a burger refill? And I'm like, it's a drink refill, but with a burger. But he's like, sorry, I wouldn't do that. So, but the thing is, I started studying myself using these videos and post them online. I started analyzing myself. And I found, sometimes it's not life and death, even though it felt like a life and death, because the word of no is one of the most, hurtful word in English language. It felt really bad, but it wasn't that bad. But on the third day, my whole world changed. So I went to Krispy Kreme. I'm sure you have Krispy Kreme in Chicago, but it's more in the southeastern part of the United States where it's a donut shop. I went to Krispy Kreme and asked the donut maker to make me a box of donuts that look like Olympic rings. So it's like, you interlink 5 rings together, make them look like Olympic symbols. But the thing is, the donut maker took me really seriously. And almost none of these people know I was filming. So she thought I was just a regular customer asking for things. And so she was jotting down notes and how the color looks like, and she Googled it and got the color right. So in 15 minutes, she presented me with a box of donuts that look like Olympic rings.
So you walked into Krispy Kreme and said, I'm looking for a box of donuts that have the color of the Olympic rings.
No, I said, you make me a special box of donuts that look like Olympic rings. Basically, you interlink them together, make them look like it.
And she took it seriously.
She took it seriously, and she did it in 15 minutes, and she gave it to me for free. And just part of the challenge, she didn't think she did a great job, but she gave it to me for free. I was just floored. I couldn't believe.
You must have been just buzzing from it.
Yeah. Even today, when I think about the moment, I still have the misty eye. You guys can, your listener can go to YouTube and just search Olympic donuts. You will see that video.
Because you did a TEDx talk where you showed that.
Yeah,
yes.
It had over 5 million views, the video. So it was fantastic just for the whole experience. But that experience changed me. I'm like, wow, actually people can say yes to you. Even if you make absurd requests. How many more requests did I not ask? And how many more Olympic rings did I miss because of this fear of rejection? Because of this thing and so I took this the rest of 100 days of rejection, just basically going out and make ridiculous requests and have fun. I used to want to, in my life, I wanted to hear yes, every single yes. Every time I ask something, I want to hear yes. At the beginning of 100 days of rejection, I wanted to hear no because I wanted to get rejected, right? But now I'm like, you know what? All I wanted is just go out there and ask, and go out there and put myself in front of people, and I want them to say yes or no to me. I hate the fact that I was saying no to myself a lot because of this fear. So this idea and this blog really took off because a lot of people thought it's very inspiring. And I used to think I was the only one, or maybe one of the few people who was so afraid of rejection. But it turned out that the vast majority of people are afraid of rejection.
Yes.
So they were living their life or a therapeutic life through me getting out there, getting rejected. So they're telling me I was helping them. And this really gave me a sense that there's something a lot more than just me here. There's just people I want to help.
So going through and doing these 100 days of rejection, what has been one of the factors what has it allowed you to do?
It allowed me to start seeing rejection not as a truth, right? Not as some sort of universal truth. Not as if I used to think if someone said yes to me, that's a proof that I had worth, right? Or if someone said no to me or really give me a look, it's like the universe telling me that I have no worth or my idea had no worth. But it turned out because I put myself out there into these many people, some people will say yes to me no matter how absurd my request was. Some people say no.
Do you think the more absurd the request, the more likely of a chance you actually might get a yes?
I don't think there's that correlation, but there's a strong correlation between how I presented it. If I'm confident, if I'm both humble and confident, but also have respect, and I want the other people to say no, to know that I'm asking them a favor. I'm not here to force them anything. My chance of getting a yes goes way higher.
Have you ever heard of exposure and response prevention therapy?
No, but it sounds really serious.
So it is exactly what you are describing, and in the realm of it's a cognitive behavioral therapy that's in the realm of kind of under the umbrella of acceptance and commitment therapy. And what exposure and response prevention does is you're exposing yourselves to the things that make you feel anxious, and you're doing it on purpose. You are intentionally trying to increase your anxiety, because what happens is we get this anxious response to a triggering event, and then our brain sends us this message: this must be dangerous, flee, avoid, get out of here, and we listen to it. So what does our brain do? It keeps sending us those messages because our brain thinks they're important because we keep listening to these messages. So what exposure and response prevention does is through a very kind of incremental, graduated types of exposure. So you start with kind of the slightly easier stuff all the way up to your highest fear. You intentionally try to basically jack your anxiety up as high as you can until it comes down. So you're doing it on purpose. You're paying attention to the anxiety without judging it. Because what happens is that response prevention, so we're trying to prevent ourselves from the old behaviors of avoiding, of escaping, of putting off. So we're, in a sense, embracing that uncomfortable anxiety and just noticing it, not judging it, just being present with it. A lot of it has to do with mindfulness. But it's a very effective, science, evidence-based, treatment for, panic disorder, anxiety disorders, OCD. And so it just seems like rejection therapy is just a very specific type of exposure and response prevention. But there was a great documentary, I guess it was a documentary. It was on VH1 called the OCD Project. It was many years ago, and it was really well done. And they show this therapy, and it's intense, and but it's really effective. And the whole idea is it rewires your brain. It rewires your brain to change that anxiety response.
It did. So it did in my case, totally. It was almost exactly what you were describing, and I call this like expanding your comfort zone, right? Yes. So when we have a very set life and we live within that comfort zone, and we desperately try not to get outside of it, like getting outside of the comfort zone, feeling like we're like naked in the wild, facing beast, right? So but really sometimes it's just something that you're not used to. But by me putting myself out there for 100 days and getting rejected constantly, and I feel like I can handle this. And now I'm going to handle this, I can be used to this. And then I'm looking for it. I'm getting excited about rejection. I learn from rejection. I try to turn no's into yes. And I learned all these negotiation skills I was practicing throughout this journey. And I learned so much. And in the end, I felt my comfort zone has been enlarged by a huge amount.
Wow. So have you ever seen that graphic where it has like two circles? One circle has an X that says you are here. Then there's another circle a little bit away from it, and then that circle says in the X it says comfort zone, and then there's an arrow pointing to the other circle, and it says growth happens here.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it somewhere. Yeah, or something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the more we push ourselves to those places, that is where growth happens. It's just the thing I often remind myself or remind my clients is that feelings are not facts. They're just sensations. Sometimes we have sometimes intrusive thoughts, and just because we think it doesn't mean it's true. It's like we all have thoughts, and a lot of people have these weird thoughts, and they are just able to say, "Oh, that was a weird thought," and they let it go, and they move on, and they move forward towards what they were doing. Some people, I think, have these thoughts of, "Oh, they're not going to want my thing, they're not going to like me," and then that just kind of they perseverate on that. Give us some other stories about how, through your 100 days of doing this, that either some really kind of like other kind of aha or successes with this, or some ones that were actually surprisingly hard for you.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things where I just feel like, I'll give an example. There are a lot of things that can happen after you hear the word no. Right? Most of the times we just want to run when we hear no. Mm-hmm. It's so painful that our natural response is like, okay, the pain there's a pain here. Let me minimize the pain. Let me avoid it. Let me get away from it. But when you do that, nothing good happens. So sometimes by staying in the conversation, by asking why when someone said no to you, you can actually
That's my favorite question.
Why? One example. One day I want to plant a flower in someone's backyard. Just a strange request, right? 100 days of rejection. I bought a rose bush in my hand and knock on someone's door and say, hey, it was a silver haired it's an older gentleman, and I said, can I plant this flower in your backyard? And he said no. And he was about to turn away. And I said, hey, may I know why? And he said, I like you're doing this, but I have a dog. Anything I put in my backyard, he will dig it up. I don't want to ruin this. But if you want to do this, you can go across the street to to my neighbor. Her name's Lauren. She loves flowers. And so
great story. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and half an hour later, I planted a flower in Lauren's backyard. The thing is, it wasn't because this first gentleman, it wasn't because he didn't like me. It wasn't because he thought I was suspicious. It wasn't because he thought I was silly or not trustworthy, whatever.
Right.
It was because what I offered did not fit his needs. If I didn't ask why, I would not know this. And in fact, he trusted me enough to give me a referral in sales terms. And I converted that referral into a sales, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you have to fight your natural tendency to just run away after you hear a no. So just sometimes stand there and have a conversation, and don't do it angry. Don't argue. That never works.
Right.
Yeah. Don't argue why you shouldn't say no to me. But get to the bottom of this. Try to solve the objection. Try to deflect those objections. Try to work with the other person. Try to make him a collaborator rather than some sort of an adversary because he said no to you or she said no to you.
You use the term. And now my brain just lost the thought that I just had. Give me a second. Tendencies. You use the not fighting against your tendencies, and it's something that I always talk about. How our tendencies don't have to be what we do; they're just our tendencies. It's basically what we do on autopilot.
Yes.
So now bridge all of these tendencies to want to escape the uncomfortable feeling. Bring this to how does this connect with ADHD?
Yeah, it's interesting because first of all, a lot of us have this fear of rejection because we get rejected a lot. And then having ADHD is not, among people who don't have it, is not easy. you don't want to broadcast it. You don't want to say, on your resume, you say, hey, I have ADHD. So you have
Wait, I don't want to broadcast I have ADHD?
Yeah,
Oh, man, I'm screwed.
no, but saying when you're looking for a job,
Right.
when you're in a work environment, you don't want to do this because you feel there's some shame involved with it. But ADHD is just, it's a medical condition. It's just like, I have I don't know, a gout or something. You don't want to, or you have a busted leg, right? You don't, or maybe that's not a good term, but maybe it's differently. You walk a little bit differently, but it's not something that you made it happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just you have it, and there's some advantage to it too. So, but we get rejected a lot at works, and to holding on a job at school. In my case, I was holding on my dear life, both in really at school. So we almost feel like we have to prove ourselves a lot of times. We almost feel like we are so afraid to be rejected by people. I want to tell you that rejection, I'm sure people who don't have ADHD have this fear as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people who do, just want you to know that rejection is nothing more than some people's opinion. It really is. I don't think that as truth or some sort of indictment of who you are. You are who you are. And stop trying to constantly impress other people. Because when you do that, you start doing things that you're not good at. You start trying to do things that you don't want to do and trying to live up to someone's expectation.
Mm-hmm.
You can impress people, or just by doing amazing things. Just find your passion and do things that maybe it fits you better. Maybe it doesn't. It's not like there are so many coworkers or classmates who are better than me, getting better grades and doing a better job, and constantly trying to measure up and trying to impress people was really tiresome. So try to rise up and find out what you can contribute based on who you are.
That's great. So you're about to come out with this book, and you're saying you're about to go on a book tour. So what is the writing process for you? Like that's on my bucket list of writing a book, and man, it just seems so daunting to me because I'm not a natural writer. It's why I podcast. It's like I have 1,000 thoughts before I get to the end of a sentence, and then I have no idea what I was going to say. So how did you write the book?
One of my the best decisions I made was to hire a developmental editor. She
and what does a developmental editor do?
Yeah, developmental editor basically work with you to develop, the book. You have to treat the book like a product almost. So there's everything there are tons of thoughts in your mind. There are just tons of ideas. How do you put that on paper? And how do you not write 2 lines and start surfing the internet like I often do, right? So and then how do you not going to go through 20 pages and start saying this is all crap, I'm gonna start over? Like all those tendencies those things will happen. Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that when they happen you still know what to do? Is you find a partner in doing this. I feel like when I do everything on my own, being in the dark room, that's where I'm the most that's where the most dangerous for me, because I get lost track really easily. But when I have a partner whom I'm responsible to, who we can actually talk constantly and get the stimulus from, basically her words and her thoughts of constantly working on this book together, that was really helping me. So she was helping me to craft the story. I have ideas. I want to bounce it off her. And when I write every chapter, I will send it to her. She will do the initial editing for me to make sure it all sound more professional. English is not my first language, so sometimes I make mistakes. But she would help me to correct those mistakes. So having a partner in anything you do helps tremendously for someone with ADHD.
Absolutely. That's why we have the my coaching groups who use accountability partners in our groups, because that's the challenge of knowing what to do and not doing it. That's ADHD. Have that accountability partner, and it kind of bridges that gap.
And also the constant stimulation toward working with people. It really helps.
What are you most excited about with this book coming out?
Oh yeah, couple things. One is
you got to be stoked. I mean, I'd be so excited if I were you.
I am excited, but also there's Little bit
You're
anxiety.
afraid they're not going to like it.
No, I'm not afraid they're gonna like it because the people I've sent it to, a lot of readers, and they all loved it. And I have the endorsement from some of the best authors out there. New York Times best-selling authors, and
Wow.
so I know I will like it. Yeah. So, but I'm gonna go on the road, and what I want to do is I want to just not just promote the book. I really want to help people. I really want. I want to see, because I saw with what I did. I learned how not to be afraid of rejection, how to turn rejection into advantages, how to turn rejection into my life, basically, into my mission. How much power it has on me with going after my dreams, with handling people's reactions. I want other people to have that as well. I want to just see how many ideas could be realized, right? How many love stories could be written because you're not afraid to go out and ask someone on a date. How many more, lives will be fulfilled. I get passionate and I get excited about that. So I want to use this book as a catalyst for that to happen, for you, the audience, who are listening to this or who are reading my book, to go out and just do your thing and act in spite of rejection, act because of rejection.
Ja, you are going to be successful. And one of the signs that I know about this, you just gave me goosebumps when you just told me all that. So I got a physiological response to that. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you. I did want to ask you, we didn't even talk about this ahead of time. I'm very curious as how, and I don't know if you can talk to this, how is ADHD viewed in China? Is that something that you're comfortable talking? Not trying to make you look now you're the spokesperson of all people who are from China because you're Chinese.
Yeah. I can only speak about that. Maybe about the consensus of that maybe 15 years ago, because I lived in the U.S. for a long time.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
So I'm sure I know much more about this country than China.
Okay.
From my limited knowledge, it is not perceived as something serious.
Okay.
Just based on how my family told me about it, it's like, you're weak, you're making excuses, right? Okay. So it's and you're either a good student or you're a bad student. In China, people are very goal oriented. If people are, the students study hard. If you have some, if you live in the U.S., if you know someone who has a Chinese background, you probably know this. A lot of students know how to work hard and get good grades. We really do. But if you have ADHD, like I do, it's really tough. It's an inherent.
Is it almost like a double pressure because of that cultural expectation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's not this channel like right here. There's talk about maybe overdiagnosis of ADHD. In China, there's definitely not that. There's there's not that medicine in medical help. There's not that legitimate channel. Maybe there is now. I don't know about. But when I was there, it was just not talked about at all.
Yeah, if anyone listening knows of that, it'd be great if you can go to the website under the comments for this episode. Just let us know if you know if there is medication and how it is responded to in China. That'd be very interesting to know. Yeah, that's just really interesting. Thank you for sharing that piece with me.
No problem. By the way, I haven't talked about this topic with at all, with a lot of people. My wife knows this, but this is the first time I'm talking this in a public forum.
Wow, thank you.
No problem. But I can tell you that having ADHD is just like getting rejected. It's not an indictment. It's an occurrence. It's not what defines you. It's what you do after that. It's what you do. What's your action that happens after these circumstances that define you? So it's there are ways you can handle it, or you can just sit back and really make this an excuse, saying look at me, I'm not, I can't do this, and because of ADHD. Or you can say, okay, I have ADHD. You know what? This is neither good or bad. It's amoral. What my goal is, I'm going to do these things to mitigate the effect, but also maximize the advantage. And I can still do amazing things in life. That's really just that's the same spirit of handling rejection. When you're rejected, you do things despite of rejection. Don't let the circumstance define you.
So repeat that first part that you said. That ADHD is like, or rejection is like having ADHD, or ADHD is like having rejection. Say that again, because that was.
ADHD is like getting rejected, right? It's a circumstance in life. It doesn't define who you are.
It's how you deal with it.
Yeah, it's your reaction toward that circumstance define who you are. That's
awesome. You're filling up the awesome sauce bucket right now.
Thank you. I really believe it.
Okay, so we're getting towards the end here. So before I let you go, we do have to move into the random question round, which is the part of the show which has nothing to do with ADHD, which then paradoxically has everything to do with ADHD.
That's the paradox of ADHD. Absolutely.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, and in very ADHD fashion, I don't plan for this part of the show. But my first question is my standard question. And if you could create or invent something or improve upon an existing invention, what would it be?
Oh, improving an existing invention. I want to develop an app. Like that's who I am. I think about things in this term. I want to develop an app where that track how many times you are, I guess, distracted in this case. Talking about ADHD, right?
Well, speaking of distraction, what just happened, and I'll share with the listeners. So I think that I use the same code that I use for my coaching group for this call. So we just had someone that logged on for my coaching group call. So give me 1 second. So here's ADHD at its finest. So this is Ja. We are at the end of the episode, our next episode of ADHD Rewired, and I kind of lost track of time. So you are all kind of filling in for the random question round. Yes, this is Ja, and so if anybody has a random question, feel free to ask it. Everyone's like, what the hell is going on right now?
Yeah, just ask me a question. Someone, ask me a question.
Sorry, I missed the beginning there, Eric. Could you just repeat?
Well, you're actually right at the very end of a episode that we're recording. You're fine. My fault, but we're just going to go with it. So what
are the questions we can ask?
So we're at the random question round. So you can ask absolutely anything.
Who painted the painting behind you?
I have no idea.
Great question for audio.
It's not a painting. It's a picture of some sort.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a triptych painting.
Yeah, it's me hanging on my head. Well, that looks like a good time, right? In the farm and mountains and stuff. Good question. So,
I think we're going to cut this random question around short. Ja, thank you so much for being a guest on ADHD Rewired. I will make sure that all the links to everything that you talked about will be posted in the show notes, and I'll share this with the community. And I know you are already a part of the ADHD Rewired Facebook community, so I want to thank you for spending the hour with me. And best of luck to you on your book tour, and I'm really excited. Any final thoughts on how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I want to make a page for the ADHD community. This is a community that I'm new to, but also kind of really dear to my heart because I live with this condition for my life. And so if you go to my website, fearbuster.com, then /ADHD, I have something special for you.
Will that be ADHD or ADHD Rewired?
No, just ADHD.
ADHD, keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
It's hard to misspell ADHD.
Right. Fearbuster.com with no S, just fearbuster.com /ADHD. Okay.
Ja, thank you so much. And all of those links will be in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to another episode of ADHD Rewired. See a full outline of this episode with all the links and other resources mentioned at ADHDrewired.com. Help support this podcast by checking out my sponsors, Zoom and Audible. And next time you shop at Amazon, use the search portal at my website, ADHDrewired.com. ADHD Rewired Coaching summer sessions are coming. Congratulations to my most recent graduates of this group. I loved your presentations, and I will miss our daily sessions. Go to coachingrewired.com or schedule your free consultation to see if this group is right for you. That's coachingrewired.com. This is the last week you can complete the ADHD Rewired ebook survey and enter to win the ADHD Rewired Mystery Box of Awesomeness. To take the survey, go to erictivers.com/ebook. That's erictivers.com/ebook. Speaking of books, my friend, fellow podcaster and past guest, Tom Nardone has a new book out. It's called Chasing Kites. I'm looking forward to reading it, and you can go get it at tomnardone.net. That's Tom, NARDONE.net. Also, my past guest and ADHD coach, Jenny Friedman, just launched an ADHD podcast called C in ADHD. Go check it out. It's on iTunes. If you live in Northern Illinois, join me at CHAD of Northern Illinois. We meet the third Monday of every month at 6:45 p.m. at the chapel in Grays Lake. Check ADHDrewired.com for a link for more information. And if you are looking for an ADHD support group in your area, go to chad.org and search the directory. Don't just be a passive listener, be an active member of the community. ADHD Rewired is on Facebook. You can like our page, but submit your request to join our free and growing community. And don't forget to check your other inbox because I want to talk with you before I let you in the group. You can leave a message for ADHD Rewired and hear your message on an upcoming show. Have a question? Want to share a story? Have a comment you want to leave on the show? Go to speakpipe.com/ADHD Rewired or just see the show notes for a link. As always, ratings and reviews on iTunes are like gold stars on my star chart. Help keep this podcast visible in iTunes by leaving a review. It really does help, and I am truly grateful for it. Thank you again for listening and for allowing me to be vulnerable with you. Growth happens when we step outside of our comfort zones. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time.